Hey Classic Car World, welcome F100 World and F100 World Build It Your Way members. It is CraigerCoClassic here, and I'm going to try and get all of the details in here, make it a short and simple video, so to answer people's questions, common questions on the Explorer coil spring swap. We'll start by answering a few. It is 1991 to 1994 first gen Explorer coil springs. I know nothing about anything after that body style. I am told they don't necessarily use coil springs, if even ones that would work on our trucks. As for our trucks, these only work on Ford trucks with twin I-beam suspension two-wheel drive. So essentially 66, some 65s to 1979 Ford F100s, in 70s Ford F150s, F250s, F350s, two-wheel drive twin I-beams. So from there, why would you go coil springs off of an Explorer? I'll give the dimensions later, but if you were to go purchase lowering springs for our suspension, you will find that they're about $200 plus, and this is essentially an affordable way to lower your truck. Depending on your engine size, depending on a lot of other variables, small things, but our variables will lower your truck anywhere from 2 to 3 inches. The reason I chose to go Ford Explorer coils, aside from the cost, which was my main motivation, aside from wanting to lower it, is that I could be able to cut those springs and get even more of a lowered look. And these are actually Ford Explorer coil springs cut. I cut a whole coil off, and you can tell that I'm right on there, right close to the fender. I'm also running front sway bar, which is recommended as well, because these twin I-beams really sway, and if you're running the lower springs, you'll get less sway, therefore no fender rub. I'm getting none here, and I'm running stock I-beams. One day I'm going to run probably drop beams, but not right now, and I'd probably run normal coil springs, so on and so forth. They do improve the ride pretty good. I'd say nothing super substantial, but it is a better ride. I noticed the small bumps are a lot less effective and everything. I do recommend running good shocks, like high quality shocks. To answer a question, you do not need to purchase short shocks on even cut Explorer coil springs with stock twin I-beams. It is probably a completely different situation if you run even just uncut Explorer springs on the Dream beams, especially if they're cut. With the Explorer coil springs, I have noticed, and I'll post a picture, that you're going to have to either completely remove, you don't have to I suppose, but completely remove, which is not recommended, or get a shorter bump stop on your frame. Just because, well, obvious reasons, when you lower it, you want to have at least a little bit of your suspension range back. I'm running cut, as I said, so I decided to go on the short one. I know people that are running uncut coil springs, Explorer coil springs, and they're having no issue with the bump stop. So I'm going to start with the dimensions. The stock springs on our trucks are 16 3/4 inches tall and 5 3/8 inches wide. The Ford Explorer coils are 13 3/4 inches tall and 4 3/4 inches wide. So you can tell immediately you've got a drop from just the height. Now, if you're concerned at all, which I was, about the width of the spring fitting in the top mount or the lower mount, I wondered the same thing. So on to that. From there you get, I will say this, we'll start here. Right here I want to call a spring perch. There's two types. This one right here I believe comes on 1965 to 1972 twin I-beams. They have the cast iron radius arms, and these go with them as well. These are a more snug fit for some reason on these Explorer coil springs. So I decided to go with the other type with the lip, and the Perches that go with they have the lip are 1973 to 1979. They work better for the snug fit of your Explorer coils. But after I realized once the spring sits on it, it seats to it pretty freaking good. It's pretty on there pretty good. So I recommend, even though I didn't go, getting these, because with the bolt through, this sits on your I-beam. The rotation, you're able to rotate your spring to fit your upper spring mount, and which I'll get to in a second. So I recommend these, even though they are more snug fit. So that's, I guess you could count that as a problem. So first problem is bump stop, not an issue. You can get shorter ones or go without. And then there's the spring perches, which are a very snug fit, but they fit just fine. No one's having any issues with them. I recommend this for the sake of adjusting your spring as you lower it. And then I recommend the lip, though, probably for being more sturdy, so it depends on which way you want to go. From there, attaching up to the top of the mount, there is a lip in the top spring mount. There is a lip in there that the spring coil is supposed to fit snug, and that fits pretty good. And then there is we'll just call it a spring bracket that uses two bolts to hold your spring on your on the top of your mount. Those are very snug, and you can see in the image that I put up there how it'll fit with the stock springs and how it'll fit with the coil springs. And really, other than that, there isn't really an issue with this install. So I didn't notice anything. I think it's great. Now I'm going to go into some questions I get all the time. What about your camber angle? Stock twin I-beam suspension with stock springs and everything, they're designed to run with a positive camber. So essentially the bottom of your tires are sitting at this positive angle. Why they did this, I don't know. It's definitely a 60s thing all the way across. And then of course, you know, negative camber is like this. You see that a lot on race cars or racers. But what I liked about the coil springs, even when uncut, they brought the camber to closer to 0 degree. And that is nice. And I personally did not have to, and I have yet to hear of anybody necessarily having to adjust their camber, which is really hard on these I-beams. You have to find someone to do it. Nobody does it anymore. What I did notice, which may just have been my suspension, but I did notice I did have to adjust the toe angle for my drag link, you know, steering linkage and stuff. So that wasn't that bad. Probably needed it anyway before I ever put coil springs on it, and that was after I cut them as well. So and it's driving great, I'll be honest with you. So there is that. So summary: when you install, these springs are shorter. You're gonna have to get shorter bump stops, possibly. The springs they seat very snug on your lower spring perches. There's two types of those. Recommended the one without the lip for just being easier on you to align the spring up with the lip on the top mount. And the bracket on the top mount is a little off, but it works fine on mine, no issues. Put 6,000 plus miles on this thing, probably more actually, and I've had 0 issues. So that's really all the issues you really have.